I don't usually check my wife's phone. I mean, it's kind of an unspoken rule in a healthy marriage, right? You trust or you don't. And I trusted Emily. At least, I thought I did. We'd been married almost 8 years, and not once did I ever feel the urge to dig through her messages, check her call logs, or scroll through her social media with suspicion. It just wasn't who I was. But that night changed something. It was a Tuesday, nothing special. We had both worked late, grabbed some Thai takeout on the way home. She told me about a campaign she was running at the firm, how her new coworker Jake kept suggesting weird, quirky ideas to stand out in the market. I half listened, mostly because I was tired, but also because Emily could go on for 20 minutes about font choices if you let her. She was passionate about her job, and I admired that about her. I still do, in a way. That fire, that confidence. We ate, cleaned up, and she went off to shower like she always did. I stayed in the bedroom scrolling through news headlines on my phone, laying back against the pillows. Her phone was charging next to mine, plugged into the outlet on her nightstand, which was weird in itself, come to think of it. Lately, she'd gotten into the habit of charging her phone in the bathroom. She said she liked listening to podcasts while getting ready for bed. But tonight, for whatever reason, she'd left it in the bedroom. That's when it lit up. It buzzed once, and I glanced over without even thinking. I wasn't trying to snoop, I swear I wasn't. But the message was there, big white text against the dark lock screen. From a number not saved in her contacts. Tonight was magical. You smelled like ginger. I blinked at it. For a second, I thought maybe I read it wrong. I sat up and looked closer. No, I read it right. Magical. Ginger. My brain stumbled over the words like they were in a foreign language. Who the hell texts something like that? Who uses the word magical to describe a night with someone else's wife? And why did they mention how she smelled? I was still staring when she walked back in towel around her shoulders, her damp hair dripping onto the hardwood floor. She saw the screen. I know she did. Her eyes landed on it for a brief second, just a flash of recognition before she crossed the room and picked the phone up like nothing was out of the ordinary. Oh, she said, smiling faintly. That's just Jake. He's always making dumb jokes about the candle scents in the office. Yesterday he said I smelled like a gingerbread latte or something ridiculous like that. She laughed, not too hard, not too soft. Just the right amount of casual. And then she turned the screen off and tossed the phone back on the bed like it was no big deal. Just Jake. Just candles. Just dumb office jokes. She said it with that tone women use when they want you to feel stupid for asking. You know, the one, slightly amused, slightly annoyed, 100% in control. And I played my part. I didn't ask any follow-ups. I didn't press. I just nodded slowly and said, okay. I even smiled. But my brain was already kicking into overdrive. Here's the thing, I've met Jake. Once. At Emily's office Christmas party last year. He was a tall guy, a little too confident, the kind of handshake that lasts half a second too long. Called me bro, like we'd been college roommates. Emily had mentioned him before in passing, usually in sentences like, Jake's being a weirdo again, or Jake tried to pitch a campaign with sock puppets. But she'd never made it sound like they were close. And now he's texting her at 10:30 p.m. saying she smelled like ginger? That's not a candle joke. That's a memory. And it wasn't just what she said, it was how she said it. The way she didn't seem even slightly surprised that a man was texting her something like that. No shock, no embarrassment, no raised eyebrow. Just a quick laugh, a throwaway excuse, and back to normal. I wish I could say I brought it up later. That I confronted her when we were brushing our teeth or crawling into bed. But I didn't. I swallowed it. Nodded along when she told me about a show she wanted to binge. Said, I love you back when she leaned in to kiss me goodnight. But in my head, I pinned a red flag to the bulletin board. It wasn't proof, not yet. I didn't want to jump to conclusions. But something about it, something about that moment, her casual tone, the phrasing of that text, the look in her eye when she saw I'd seen it, it all felt off. It's funny how your mind works when suspicion enters the equation. You start replaying things. Reevaluating past conversations. Reanalyzing body language. You become a private investigator in your own house, filing memories away like evidence. At some point that night, while she was already asleep beside me, I turned to face the wall and stared at the dark. And I thought, what if I'm right? But just as quickly, another voice jumped in. What if you're wrong? That's the worst part. That in-between space. You don't want to be the paranoid husband who makes something out of nothing. You don't want to be the guy who interrogates his wife over a single weird text. But you also can't shake the feeling that something's not right. When I asked about it again the next morning, just in passing, hey, what was that text about last night? She rolled her eyes and said, are we really doing this? Like I was being ridiculous. Like I was some insecure child inventing drama. I told you it was a dumb inside joke. You're reading into it too much. Then she kissed me on the cheek, grabbed her bag, and left for work. And that was that. But it wasn't that. Not for me. Because once that seed of doubt is planted, it doesn't go away. It just waits. Grows. Spreads roots. And before you know it, you're lying in bed next to someone you love, wondering who else they've been smiling at like that. Wondering if you're crazy or if you've been blind this whole time. I didn't go through her phone. I didn't follow her. I didn't even mention it again. I just observed. I paid attention. And the more I watched, the more I noticed. I noticed how quickly she picked up her phone every time it buzzed. How she started locking her screen even when she left it on the table for 30 seconds. How she'd laugh at messages she never showed me. How once, when I walked into the room unexpectedly, she tilted the screen away from me just slightly. Just enough. But still, I didn't say anything. I wasn't ready yet. I needed more. And if there was more, if that message wasn't a one-time weird joke but the tip of something deeper, I knew it would reveal itself eventually. People slip. Patterns repeat. And love doesn't usually come with disclaimers like, "You smelled like ginger." After that night, I started paying attention. Really paying attention. Funny how your memory starts working overtime when your trust begins to crack. It's like my brain had been storing *TS all along, little odd moments I brushed off in the name of love. But now, those same moments played back in a new light, clearer than ever, and every single one felt like a piece of a puzzle I hadn't realized I was building. It wasn't just that one text. It was the way things had been shifting quietly for months. I remembered when she changed all her passwords. At the time, it didn't seem suspicious. She told me it was part of a new company-wide security protocol, something about two-factor authentication and data privacy. She even joked that I should do the same just in case I ever became a targeted individual. We laughed about it. I remember teasing her, "What secrets are you hiding, huh?" She laughed. "Only the ones about your birthday presents." That was 5 months ago. And now I couldn't log into anything, not our shared Netflix profile, not the backup drive where we used to keep vacation photos, not even the grocery list app we'd used for years. She said she'd accidentally logged out and forgot the shared credentials. Maybe it really was just forgetfulness. Or maybe that's when she started compartmentalizing. Then there were the phone calls. At first, it was just a thing here and there, her stepping outside to take a work call during dinner. I get it, her job is demanding and clients don't operate on a 9-to-5 schedule. But then it became a habit. And not just any habit, one that continued even when it was raining or freezing cold. I remember one night in January when it was pouring outside. I was sitting on the couch with a blanket over my lap watching a rerun of some cooking show. She got a call, glanced at the screen, and said, "I need to take this. Be right back." She slipped out the back door with her coat barely zipped. I sat there watching the seconds tick by, the steam from my tea curling into the air. 10 minutes passed. 15. Then 20. When she came back in, her hair was soaked and her hands were red from the cold. She acted like nothing had happened. "Who was it?" I asked casually. "Client stuff," she replied, tossing her coat over the railing and heading into the bathroom. That's another thing. The bathroom. She started charging her phone in there. Said she liked the acoustics for music and the privacy while listening to podcasts. I didn't think much of it at first, plenty of people scroll on the toilet, I guess, but it became a nightly ritual. Phone in, door shut, water running. Some nights it would be half an hour before she came out. I'd be half asleep by then, and she'd just climb into bed with a quick kiss on the forehead. And then there was the cologne. The first time I noticed it, we were hugging in the hallway. I'd just gotten back from a weekend visit with my parents. She had stayed behind, citing work, saying it would be boring for her. I didn't question it. We were both busy, and it wasn't unusual for us to do separate things once in a while. But when she hugged me that Sunday night, I caught a scent on her that didn't belong. It wasn't mine. I use a basic, woodsy-smelling deodorant and the same cologne I've worn since college. This scent was different. Something sharper, with a citrusy finish. I pulled back slightly, trying not to react. "New perfume." She blinked. "Huh? Oh no, it's probably from the samples we're testing for the new body spray campaign. One of them exploded in the office. I smelled like a Macy's counter all day." She said it like it was a joke. Like it was a funny, dumb thing that happened at work. I laughed too, but something inside me didn't buy it. That wasn't the smell of a body spray sample. It was something more deliberate, more int**mate. After that, things started adding up in quiet ways. She stopped leaving her phone by the bed. Said she was trying to cut screen time before sleep. Smart move, right? Except I started noticing that she never let it out of her sight anymore. If she left a room, the phone came with her. Even when she showered, she took it in. I like listening to true crime stuff, she said. Sure. She also started sleeping later. Not just 10 or 20 minutes. I'm talking full-on snoozing through alarms. That was new for her. Emily used to be the kind of person who bounced out of bed before sunrise. Lately, she stayed under the covers until the last possible second, then rushed to get ready, always claiming she was just so tired lately. But that exhaustion didn't show when she went out. She still found the energy to go out with her coworkers on Thursdays. She still found time to dress up for client mixers. One night, I came into the bedroom after doing the dishes and found her standing at the mirror, adjusting a necklace I hadn't seen before. She was wearing this sleek black dress. Elegant, a little revealing, the kind of outfit she used to save for anniversary dinners. Wow, I said. Big event. She turned slightly. Yeah. Jake's team is hosting some marketing thing at that rooftop place downtown. Super casual though. I raised an eyebrow. You're wearing that to a casual thing? She smiled without showing her teeth. You know how it is, always need to look sharp. Clients might be there. Never know who you'll bump into. Then she grabbed her bag and left. That night, she didn't come home until nearly midnight. When I asked how it went, she said, fine, boring. A bunch of old guys talking about market trends. She peeled off her heels, walked into the bathroom, and I heard the water running within seconds. She stayed in there for nearly 45 minutes. When she came to bed, she curled up next to me and whispered, "You're so warm." Before falling asleep in less than a minute, I laid awake, staring at the ceiling. It wasn't the dress or the perfume or the long showers by themselves. It was all of it. A slow erosion of the little rituals that used to make us us. The late-night snacks. The honest "I missed you" texts. The random forehead kisses in the kitchen. They were disappearing one by one, replaced with vagueness and distance. I started to feel like a guest in my own marriage. Placeholder. Some nights, I'd pretend to be asleep when she came in, just to see what she'd do. And I noticed something strange. She'd take her time changing, sometimes humming softly to herself, sometimes smiling at her phone. Then she'd slip into bed without touching me, sigh contentedly, and roll to her side. It wasn't rejection. It was detachment. And detachment, I've learned, is the scariest thing of all. Not the shouting matches or the slamming doors. No, it's the silence. The distance you feel lying 6 inches away from someone who used to be your whole world. That's when I realized I wasn't being paranoid. I wasn't inventing stories. I was finally seeing the truth. The truth that had been slowly leaking into our lives for months. Hiding behind explanations that didn't quite add up and smiles that didn't quite reach her eyes. And deep down, I knew the next time wouldn't be a strange scent or a late-night message. The next time, I'd find something I couldn't unsee. It happened on a Thursday. She said she had a business meeting, not unusual. She gets invited to cafes and lounges now and then for what she calls off-the-record brainstorms. Normally, I wouldn't think much of it. But this time, I was ready. Because a week before, I'd started doing what I never imagined I'd have to do in my own marriage. Investigating. Quietly, carefully, like a man walking across ice he knows is about to crack. I started small, checking shared calendars, noting her work hours, and calling in a favor from a friend of mine who worked at one of the cafes she frequented. His name's Owen. He's been a server at the Hatch and Bean for years, the kind of guy who remembers faces better than names. We'd been there together plenty of times. He even called Emily Mrs. No Foam Latte because of her usual order. So when she mentioned that she had a client meeting at the Hatch and Bean, something about the timing didn't sit right. She said it so casually, brushing her hair back while packing her laptop, tossing in words like pitch deck and branding revisions, but I'd already messaged Owen the moment she brought it up. I asked if he could keep an eye out. Just let me know who she was meeting. His reply came about an hour later. She reserved a table. Name on the residential says Rachel. And it's for 2. Rachel? Emily's middle name is Rachel. She never uses it. Not unless she's trying to be discreet. I felt my stomach drop. My hands got cold. But I didn't confront her. I smiled, nodded, and kissed her goodbye when she left the house. She was dressed sharply, but not too sharply. A deep green blouse I hadn't seen in a while. Subtle makeup. That specific perfume, the warm, spiced one she only used when she wanted to make a lasting impression. I watched her pull out of the driveway, waved like nothing was wrong, then went back inside and changed clothes. Baseball cap? Gray hoodie. Nothing flashy. I didn't want to be seen. I got there early, maybe 20 minutes before her reservation. I asked Owen to seat me in the corner booth near the window, close enough to watch the front entrance but far enough that she wouldn't notice me. He gave me a look, part concern, part curiosity, but didn't ask questions. Just nodded and walked away. The cafe was lively, people tapping at laptops, couples murmuring over shared desserts, the clatter of cups, and the low hum of music. I sat there nursing a coffee I didn't want, staring into the cup like it held answers. Then she arrived. I saw her before she saw him. She walked in with her phone in her hand, checking something, smiling softly at whatever she read. She looked comfortable. Confident. Like she belonged in this moment. Then he came in behind her, a man in a gray blazer, dark jeans, and those polished loafers that scream corporate but cool. He had that clean-cut, salt and pepper look. Not older, just refined. Like someone who knows exactly who he is. They hugged at the entrance. Not a friendly hug. A slow, familiar, arms around the waist kind of hug. That was when my heart dropped into my stomach. They walked to their table, the one reserved under Rachel. Owen gave me a brief glance as they passed, just the slightest frown of recognition. I think he knew. Or he suspected. And I hated that he had to see it too. I watched them sit, order wine, lean in close. They didn't touch right away, but the body language said enough. His knee brushed hers under the table. She tilted her head in that way she does when she's fully engaged. She laughed, not the polite kind, but the belly-deep kind. The one I used to think was reserved for me. Then he reached out and rested his hand on her thigh. And she didn't pull away. She didn't even flinch. She just smiled and touched his wrist. I don't know how long I sat there after that. Time moved like mud. The room felt smaller, louder, somehow more distant all at once. I couldn't hear anything they were saying, but I didn't need to. Their posture, the timing, the looks, it was all there. The kind of may see that only comes when the groundwork's already been laid. This wasn't a flotation. This wasn't the beginning of something. This was the middle. This was well underway. When the bill came, she reached into her purse like she was going to split it. He laughed and covered it without hesitation. She leaned over and whispered something in his ear, and he smiled, that smug little smile that made my blood pressure spike. Then they stood. Another hug. This one lasted longer. Her hand trailed down his back before she pulled away. That was my cue to leave. I didn't storm out. I didn't slam anything. I slipped through the side entrance where the staff exit spills into the alley and walked 3 blocks to my car. I sat behind the wheel with the engine off, staring straight ahead, hands trembling against the steering wheel. It was done. I knew. It wasn't a suspicion anymore. It wasn't a maybe. It was real. Emily, my wife, my partner of nearly a decade, was in a full-blown affair. And she was good at hiding it. Too good. My head was spinning. My thoughts flipped between numbness and rage. I replayed every conversation we'd had over the last 6 months, every late night, every canceled plan, every weird excuse. I saw the way she smiled at her phone. I saw the way she said, "Just a client." I heard her laugh echo in my head like a cruel loop. I don't remember driving home. I just remember getting there and sitting in the driveway for a full 15 minutes, the house staring back at me like it knew. I couldn't bring myself to go inside. I didn't want to see the kitchen where she'd kissed me this morning. I didn't want to look at the couch where we'd watched movies just last weekend. It all felt fake now. Stage props on a set that had been carefully dressed to keep me complacent. When I finally stepped inside, everything was too quiet. I went upstairs and sat on the edge of the bed we shared. Her scent was still on the pillow. I didn't cry. Not then. I didn't yell or smash anything. I just sat there breathing. Slowly. Steadily. I thought of how calm she was when she left. How she gave me a quick kiss and said, "Wish me luck." I thought of the man in the gray blazer. His hand on her leg. Her smile. And I knew this wasn't just a mistake. This was a choice. A choice she'd made more than once. A choice that had a name, a face, and a place at her table. And from that moment on, everything changed. Because now I wasn't suspicious. Now I knew. And knowing was power. I didn't explode. I didn't scream or break dishes or demand explanations. That's what part of me wanted to do, the part that still burned with humiliation and rage. But instead, I went still. Cold. Focused. There's something eerie about that kind of clarity, the kind that only shows up when everything you thought was stable collapses in front of you. I wasn't just hurt, I was activated. And in that silence, in that tight, airless space where love had once lived, I started planning. I waited a full day before making any moves. Emily came home from her client meeting the night before with takeout and a smile. She talked about how the campaign was really coming together. She said Jake was finally getting the vision and that she might have to spend more time with his team over the next few weeks. I nodded, asked about the food, said I was tired. She didn't notice the difference. Or maybe she did and chalked it up to stress or work or whatever husbands are supposed to feel when they're being systematically lied to. But I wasn't tired. I was working. That night, after she fell asleep, I went downstairs, opened my laptop, and started gathering. Step 1. Financials. I pulled up our joint bank account and went back 6 months. I flagged every restaurant charge she'd made without me. Every Uber receipt that didn't match her work schedule. Every online gift purchase that she claimed was for work anniversaries. I exported it all into a folder labeled Unshared Expenses. Step 2. Digital evidence. I knew her passwords. Or at least I had. But after she changed them, I installed keystroke software on our shared desktop, a move I hated myself for, but one I justified with every gut-wrenching memory of her smiling at someone else. It took a week to gather the log. In that log, I found 2 email threads that mattered. One was with a Rachel S., a burner Gmail account, most likely. Inside it were emails confirming hotel bookings, digital receipts for dinner reservations, and one particular message that hit me like a punch to the throat. He's still clueless. I honestly don't know how. It's almost too easy. She was talking about me. The second thread was with her best friend, Tanya. The tone there was different, more emotional, more raw. She talked about how she felt alive again, how it wasn't about S*X but about being seen. She said she didn't know if she loved him, the man in the gray blazer, but she loved how he made her feel. Like I'm 25 again, she wrote. Tanya responded, just don't get caught. That part hurt almost more than anything else. Because Tanya was the one who toasted our anniversary 3 years ago, who cried at our wedding. She knew us. She knew me. But apparently, loyalty only goes so far when someone feels justified in their betrayal. I printed everything. Not just the emails, but *TS of her calendar discrepancies, phone logs, and the photo Owen had sent me, the one he discreetly snapped from behind the espresso counter, showing Emily laughing across the table from the other man. Her hand on her wine glass, his fingers grazing hers. I created a folder, a real one, paper, not digital. I labeled it Endgame. And I wasn't done. Next step, protection. I called our bank and asked to have my name removed from anything that could be manipulated. Changed the passwords on our shared utility accounts. Locked down my credit card and froze any automatic payments that involved her subscriptions. Then came the locks. I had the house rekeyed. I told the locksmith I lost a set of keys. He didn't ask questions. By the end of the day, the locks were changed, the garage keypad reset, and Emily's access to our shared cloud storage was revoked. Still, I didn't confront her. I was waiting. The final step was the lawyer. I spent an hour on the phone with a family attorney named Kira. She was calm, efficient, and, thankfully, had seen enough betrayal cases to know exactly what I needed before I even said it. You've got the upper hand, she said after I explained the situation. What we need now is structure. We'll file a no-fault divorce with supporting documentation of infidelity which helps negotiate favorable terms. If you've got a digital trail, that's excellent. But do not, under any circumstances, tell her what you have until we've filed. I nodded even though she couldn't see me. I wasn't planning to. Kira chuckled lightly. Then you're smarter than most. Over the next few days, I played the part of the oblivious husband. I made dinner, washed dishes, asked about her day. Each night, she smiled across the table and told me about late meetings and client feedback. She'd check her phone under the table, text with someone she claimed was Tanya, and then excuse herself early to bed. One night, I heard her laugh from the bathroom. I stood outside the door for a few seconds, just listening. She didn't know I was there. I didn't say a word. She came out 15 minutes later, smelling of lavender and something else, something unfamiliar. She climbed into bed and curled away from me. Within minutes, she was asleep. I stayed up and wrote a list of everything she'd lied about. Not just the affair, but the trust she chipped away at with every excuse. Every denial. Every time she called me paranoid or too sensitive. Every time she told me I was imagining things. That I needed to be less insecure. Classic deflection. Gaslighting, really? I didn't even recognize the version of her that existed now. The woman I fell in love with wouldn't have let it get this far. But maybe she never existed, or maybe she just got tired of me. Either way, she wasn't here anymore. And I had made peace with that. I was no longer chasing explanations. I was building a case. There was one more message I found hidden in a buried chat thread that she thought she deleted. It was from him. This weekend was perfect. You're intoxicating. I can't stop thinking about how you looked when you smiled at me. And her reply? We really are getting away with this, aren't we? That line broke something in me. Not because of what it said, but because of how casually she said it. Like it was a game. Like I was just a pawn too dumb to know I was being moved around. I didn't feel like a victim anymore. I felt like a man at the edge of something final. And I was ready to take the next step. Because I had the evidence. I had the plan. And soon she would have the truth laid out in front of her. No more hiding. No more lies. No more pretending. Just consequences. She was humming when she walked in. That's the first thing I noticed. Emily pushed the front door open with her hip hands full of reusable grocery bags, still humming some pop song I didn't recognize. She looked calm. Light. Like someone returning home after a productive afternoon. She didn't notice me at first. I was in the dining room at the head of the table waiting. I watched her walk in, kick off her shoes, and set the bags on the counter. She pulled out a carton of oat milk, a bag of coffee beans, and 2 bottles of her favorite overpriced shampoo. Then she saw me. Hey, she said, surprised. You're home early. I didn't respond. She looked closer. Her smile dimmed slightly, but she kept her tone neutral. Everything okay? I didn't move. Just nodded at the folder on the table in front of me. Sit down, I said. Her brows knitted, and for a moment I saw that flicker of unease, the kind that doesn't belong in a normal marriage. She crossed the room slowly, eyes on the folder. What is this? I didn't answer. I waited until she sat. And then I opened it. Inside, *TS. Printed emails. Reservation confirmations. Bank statements. The photo Owen took. The message about how easy it had been to fool me. Page after page, I laid it out. Neatly. Quietly. She didn't speak at first. She just stared at the first page, a credit card charge from the boutique hotel downtown, and blinked. Then the emails. The ones with the burner address. Her friend Tanya's replies. The "he's still clueless" message. She turned pale. Her hand hovered over the pages, fingers trembling just slightly, like touching them would make it all more real. She started. I held up a hand. Don't lie. Don't spin. Just don't. Her mouth opened again, but nothing came out. The silence stretched between us, thick and sharp. She looked like a student who had studied all the wrong chapters before a test, unprepared, caught. This is everything, I said. Every lie. Every cover story. Every fake meeting, every late-night client dinner. It's all in there. She swallowed hard. Mark. I didn't raise my voice. I interrupted. Because I wanted this to be clear. You don't get to paint this as a mistake. It's not. A mistake is a one-time thing. This was a decision. A series of them. She dropped her eyes, her hands in her lap now, clenched. Was any of it real? I asked. All those nights I was here waiting, wondering if I was imagining things. Was there ever a version of this where you told the truth? I didn't mean for it to happen like this, she said, voice barely above a whisper. But you let it. She looked up then. Her eyes were glassy, red at the edges. I was unhappy, she said. You were always working late. You were distant. And I needed. No, I said. Don't blame me. Don't even try. She flinched just slightly. I continued. I worked hard for us. For our home. For the life you said you wanted. And instead of talking to me, instead of saying something, you snuck around and laughed with someone else about how dumb I was. Her voice cracked. It wasn't like that. I pushed the final page across the table, the one with her reply to him. We really are getting away with this, aren't we? She stared at it for a long moment. Her mouth closed, and then the collapse began. First, it was her posture. She slumped, like her spine had finally buckled under the weight of it all. Then came the breathing, shallow, uneven. Then the tears, quiet ones, falling onto her hands. No gasps, no sobbing, just a slow, steady unraveling. I didn't know how to stop, she whispered. You didn't want to, I said. I stood then and walked to the kitchen counter. I picked up the small box I'd packed earlier. Her keys, her planner, a few of her chargers, a sweatshirt she always kept on the couch. I placed it on the table beside the folder. Your things are in the car, I said. The locks have been changed. Your accounts are frozen. The lawyer will be in touch by the end of the week. She looked up, eyes wide. You're divorcing me? I met her gaze. Yes. But can't we talk? I mean, can't we at least try? I shook my head. No. You talked to him. You shared everything with him. You gave him the parts of yourself that were supposed to be mine. You don't get a redo now that you've been caught. But I love you, she said. And I heard it. The desperation. The panic. No, I replied. You loved what I gave you. The house. The stability. The safety. But you didn't love me. Not enough to tell the truth. Not enough to stop. She buried her face in her hands. Her shoulders shook. It was the first time I'd seen her break. Not in the dramatic way, but in the quiet, ugly, real way. I didn't want to hurt you, she choked. But you did, I said. Every day you chose him. Every day you looked me in the eye and lied. And now you have to live with it. The room felt airless. Like everything had been *ket out of it. She didn't try to touch me. Didn't reach for my hand. Maybe she knew it was too far gone. Or maybe she didn't know how to reach me anymore. Maybe she realized, truly realized, that I wasn't the same man sitting across from her now. That version of me, the trusting, eager, utterly devoted husband, died somewhere between her smile across that cafe table and the message that called me clueless. When she finally stood, she walked with her head down. She picked up the box. She didn't say goodbye, just walked slowly to the door, and for a moment, I thought she might turn back. But she didn't. The door clicked shut behind her, and I exhaled for the first time in hours. I stood in the center of the living room and listened to the silence. Real silence this time. Not the kind filled with doubts and distractions, but a new, heavy calm. My legs gave out and I sank to the couch. And I cried. Not for her, but for me. For the man who tried so hard to make it work. For the years I couldn't get back. For the trust that would never come as easily again. And then I stopped, wiped my face, stood up, and started making dinner for one. A few days later, Emily tried to spin the narrative. Her social media started filling with vague, melancholic quotes like, "Sometimes people walk away when you need them most," and "You never really know someone until goodbye." She posted a filtered selfie. No ring, no smile, just red eyes and a cryptic caption. Some storms are meant to cleanse. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. Mutual friends started reaching out. A few texted, "Hey, are you okay? Did something happen?" One even asked if I cheated. I just replied, "Ask her." But I wasn't passive about it. I gave my lawyer a flash drive with everything. Her hotel bookings, the gift receipts paid with our joint account, even a few candid photos of her with him. I didn't want revenge, but I wasn't going to let her paint herself as the victim. Then came the final blow. From someone I hadn't expected. Her affair partner's wife, Heather, found me through one of the cafe check-ins. She reached out asking if we could talk. When we met, she already knew. She just needed confirmation. I handed her a copy of the folder. A week later, she posted something heartfelt but piercing on Facebook. She didn't name names, but it was obvious. She talked about betrayal, manipulation, and the courage it takes to walk away from someone who wears a mask. Emily's world started unraveling after that. Her perfect image cracked, not because I attacked it, but because the truth has weight. And eventually, it shows. The divorce was finalized 3 months later. Quick, clean, efficient. I removed her name from every document. Changed all the passwords. Deleted old photos. Canceled Spotify, it was still linked to her playlists. Tossed the Mr. and Mrs. Muggs into the trash without ceremony. It was like clearing ash from a fire you didn't start, exhausting but necessary. For a while, the house felt too quiet. Too still. But it was honest. And that counted for something. Then, on a rainy Saturday afternoon, I ran into someone at the library. Her name was Ellie. We both reached for the same book, a hiking guide. We laughed. Got coffee. Talked about weather, books, small things that didn't carry the weight of lies. With her, I didn't feel the need to explain who I was or what I'd been through. And for the first time in a long time, I wasn't waiting for the other shoe to drop. I wasn't rushing anything. I wasn't building futures in my head. I was just breathing. The old chapter had ended with betrayal. This one began quietly. With peace.